Hello everyone, and welcome back to Trans Am for the final round of Season 4 Trans Am XL. We're here at Daytona Road Course for the title decider. Bananotto leads John Titor by 4 points, but given the results they have to drop in order to improve, it is a winner-takes-all situation. It's as simple as that. If they're towards the front of the field, it will be a matter of who scores the most points. So, without further ado, we're getting straight into qualifying here. As for myself, not really too much for us to be concerned about in championship terms. We're, I think, about 18 points away from Sparrow in front and about 10 points ahead of J-Dog behind. So, yeah, we don't really have any major worries in terms of the championship. We just need to try and coast around and have a consistent race, hopefully stay out of trouble in this one, and yeah, just bring it home, maybe improve. If we can get inside the top 7, we'll probably need some luck to get there. I set this car up today in terms of the day of the race. I was really struggling for pace up until then. The pole time is looking to be in the mid-40s, a 45 or a 46, I would imagine, and I've been in the 55s. I got this car into the 53s not long before the race started, so yeah, I've been struggling, but I really started to get in tune with this car shortly before we got started, and found a little bit more pace, so I'm so glad I decided to test it. It's the Dodge Charger with the Demon engine swap, so it sounds absolutely amazing. We've got a variation of the Paul Morris livery on it that I used back in round 1 of Season 3. I've just essentially swapped the black and the white around, so it's a predominantly white car now with black sponsors. But anyway, as we continue around on our qualifying lap, things are coming together okay so far. Just trying to get a neat and tidy lap in on this first one. We will have time for a couple of flyers, and yeah, we'll see what we can do as we head into the bus stop, and taking it cautiously here, not going to use too much of those curbs, actually missing that third apex there a bit, but nonetheless we'll carry on through the final banking. What this car does lack, I think, is a little bit in the top end. You'd never use it on the regular oval layout of Daytona because it just doesn't have that ultimate top speed, but it's quick enough for me. And as we come to the line, this is going to be a pretty decent time. It's a 52 flat, and I'll be honest, when that time came up I didn't quite believe it. That is more than a second, probably more than a second and a half than I've ever been around here on the lead up to this race. So while we're still nowhere near the pace, I was absolutely over the moon with that. So as we come around again, unfortunately I couldn't quite improve on the time, but it's still going to be another very decent lap in the low 52s as we come to the line. It's a 52.1, so 2 very consistent laps. I think around a 10th off on that second one, so very happy with that. And yeah, better pace than I was expecting heading into this one. It looks like John Titor's got pole at the moment. Bananotto still on a lap, as with a few others, so things may change, but at the moment it looks like John Titor has got plenty of pace, and yeah, that sticks to the end of the session. So John Titor takes a point, one critical point here in the final round. That could mean everything in the final tally, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still have a 2-hour race to get through. Look at that pole time for John Titor, 1 minute 45.7. Well, a lot faster than Bananotto in second, almost a second clear of the field in the C2 Corvette. It hasn't proven a popular car, but Jester did win Le Mans in that car last season, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I guess in some ways Daytona could be considered a similar circuit, very much top speed an important thing here, but anyway, let's take a little run through the starting grid and what tyres everyone will be using for the first stint in this race. John Titor on pole position, starting on the soft compound tyres. A minimal risk strategy, I would say, for Titor. Bananotto out of second position, starting on the hard compound tyres. Then it's Jester starting P3 on the softs. Starting out of fourth position, we have Gren on the hard compound tyres, and then out of P5 we have Sparrow, as always, in the Camaro, starting on the softs. Next up we have Uncle Pete on the medium compound tyres, switching to the boss here, and then we have myself in seventh position, starting on the softs for this one. Out of P8 we've got J-Dog starting on the hards. P9 we will have Ferbs on the hard compound tyres in the Camaro, and rounding up the grid Joken in the boss on the medium compound tyres for Joken. So that is how we all line up on the grid here at Daytona Road Course. 2 hours of racing to decide the Season 4 Trans Am champion at the World Centre of Racing. Let's do this. It's a rolling start here at Daytona, and that should spread us out a little bit heading into turn 1. So let's see how the start goes. We're underway for the final round of Trans Am XL. And we're straight into the slipstream of Uncle Pete in front. We're going to go up high into turn 1. We've broken way too early and got a massive hit from behind though. That is not a good way to get this race started. It was J-Dog who ran into the back of us, and yeah, that just wasn't good. Not really too much to say further on that. We broke too early. J-Dog had nowhere to go behind us, and now we've both got damage. I think for J-Dog it's not so bad. For us, we got the hit from behind as well as the contact with the barrier, so we've got some pretty serious damage to the right front corner, as we've got Joken looking around the outside, and Joken will be able to get through down the inside here. We're not going to fight that one too much. Joken's got a penalty, so we'll have to see where that came from, but yeah, interesting to see there already in the opening few corners in this race. Joken picking up a penalty, and yeah, running a bit wide there. That's actually going to invite us to get back up the inside. Got pretty decent traction out of the corners. Of course, Joken on the medium compound tyres, so we do have a slight grip advantage, albeit we've got that damage as well to manage. So yeah, we've got some interesting dynamics already playing out in this race, as we've managed to get that place back for the time being. Here comes J-Dog though, coming through, and Joken makes the move around the outside into the chicane right early on the brakes, giving all the space there, but Joken too late on the brakes, sends it through the chicane way off the road there, and we'll get that place back, as I think J-Dog was having a bit of a moment back there as well. So all chaotic back at the chicane, and Joken with that penalty won't be threatening us towards turn 1 this time, as well as pretty not the greatest exit out of the chicane. But anyway, on board with Jester from the start of the race in one of the 2 Trans Ams. Going to try and make the move down the inside of the other Trans Am, and that's important for Jester, starting on the softs, Bananotto on the hards. So Jester getting into position to push on in this race. So an important move. Bananotto didn't fight it, just stuck to his own line and speed through turn 1. Here's he on board with J-Dog into the first corner, just straight into the back of us. That was just me braking too early into turn 1, and yeah, got a bit tight there between myself and Joken, as Ferbs was a bit wide up the road as well. So yeah, chaotic start for this one, as we go on board with Ferbs very close to getting involved in that incident. Managed to avoid it, ran a bit wide at the end there, but kept it on the island and carried on. And here's the on board with Joken. That's where he picked up the penalty. Just a bit of lawn mowing on the inside in avoidance of the incident there. And then, yeah, we managed to hold off Joken there, but it was only going to be a matter of time before Joken was able to get through. Actually, Sammy left the door open there, but Joken not able to get up the inside. And then, yeah, you can see out of the corners, we're quite quick. Jokin slots in behind for a moment, but yeah, I intentionally kept it to the left there. Jokin carried the speed, and yeah, was able to easily get that move done down the inside. It's got better pace even on the mediums, so we don't need to make an argument out of that one. J-Dog actually got the run for a moment on the exit as both bosses struggling for traction, and we were able to hold off J-Dog for a moment there. But here's the run into the chicane. Jokin just too late on the brakes, couldn't get it stopped, lost it, and J-Dog off as well, so gets gathered up for the second part of the chicane as Jokin went flying off. And then we also had this battle playing out further up the road. This was Sparrow on the soft tyres making the move on Gren on the hards. Sparrow down the inside into the chicane, side by side they go, and Gren actually holds on there, so good effort on the hards to maintain position there by Gren as Sparrow looks high and low for a way through in the slipstream, now looking high again to get past Gren, and should be able to do so. Looks to have the straight line speed in that Camaro to make the move on Gren, and looks like Gren's actually headed for the pit lane at the end of lap 1, as is Ferbs. So a couple of the hard tyre runners getting rid of those tyres as early as possible, as we see Sparrow off the road at turn 1. And I think it's about the 4th drive we've seen miss a braking point so far in this race, so we're not alone in that regard. Meanwhile, J-Dog gets past us on the run towards turn 1. We go a bit deep this time, try and get a cut back on the inside. J-Dog cranking it sideways on the exit, but holds on to the position nicely there, so a nice bit of car control by J-Dog, holds on to that position as into the pits we see Gren getting a new set of tyres on. That's soft tyres onto the Grenstermobile, and we've got Ferbs coming in behind. Medium tyres go on for Ferbs, and a bit of fuel as well, as we've got now Uncle Pete right behind Bananotto, looking for the move down the inside and getting it done nicely on Bananotto, who cranks it sideways on the exit. Sparrow looking for the move, maybe a bit of contact between them there as this fight will carry on, and Bananotto holds on to that one for now, but Sparrow on the soft compound tyres will be looking for a way through very shortly, as Bananotto is just keeping it online at the moment. Sparrow definitely looking more grippy, gets up the inside on the exit, and is out of frame. There he is, already through. Bananotto doesn't fight that one too hard on those hard compound tyres, choosing to do at least somewhat of a stint on those tyres. Interesting choice there, as we look back to Jokin and Gren, who are not terribly far apart on track. Gren having already made a stop, of course, on soft compound tyres, catching up to Jokin on mediums. Jokin's just picked up another penalty there, and Gren, I think, will be making this move around the outside with relative ease. Gren makes the move on Jokin and moves up another position. Not really for position though, Jokin not having made a stop yet in this race, as we see Sparrow starting to put the pressure on Uncle Pete. Now Sparrow on softs, Pete on mediums as they run towards turn 1. Sparrow not quite able to get the move done as Bananotto goes deep into turn 1 this time. So it's an ongoing theme in this race. Turn 1 proving rather tricky so far throughout this one, as we see now Sparrow really putting the pressure on Pete. A bit wide out over the exit curb there. Sparrow up the inside as they run side by side up towards the kink. Something's got to give here because it's a very difficult place to run side by side, and Sparrow goes through. Pete lifts out of it, and Sparrow takes the position and finally gets some clear air on those soft compound tyres, as we go back on board with myself, and we've got Gren catching up to us at the moment. So yeah, we've got to watch out for the Flying Finn, who has taken the world by storm in Trans Am as of late, winning the last round at Kyoto Driving Park. Gets past us with ease there. We didn't even really have to give him space. He just found his way through on the exit as we went slightly wide. But as we go back to Uncle Pete, running strong in this race in P4. A little bit close to that exit wall there though, and it's a bit of a tricky one. If you do run a bit wide, that wall is right there waiting to catch you out, and Pete testing the limits of that as we see Bananotto head into the pits. Back on board with myself, and Joken eventually catches up to us again as well, and we'll make that move along the run towards turn 1. So the bosses very quick here, as you would always expect, but into the pit box comes Bananotto. The hard tyres come off of that car, and a nice set of softs will go on, so they're going to feel amazing to Bananotto as we see J-Dog into the pits, switching from the hards to mediums for J-Dog for the next stint, so getting rid of the slower compounds first for J-Dog as we go very deep into turn 1. That's a big off, so we're all struggling with that one still as we get back on circuit, and a big slide there on the exit, and we were lucky to catch that as Ferbs goes down the inside, and he would have got a spectacular view of that moment, but yeah, that was a sketchy one. But the thing with this car is you can have a moment like that, and it feels relatively catchable. So despite having that moment, I didn't feel like I was about to crash, which is always nice to have a car that you can get away with that with. But anyway, here's Sparrow grazing the outside wall back onto the banking there. So a little bit of paint off the right hand side of that car as we see Ferbs off the road in the chicane, and yeah, just misjudgment there through the chicane for Ferbs. Gets back on without losing too much time. So yeah, just a continuation of the same sort of mistakes we've been seeing all throughout. Sparrow off the road at turn 1 again, smoking it up as he comes back on, and eventually that smoke clears and Sparrow carries on. But yeah, maybe needing a bit of handbrake to get around, or a bit of a lock up. But Joken out extremely wide there, and that's going to allow Ferbs to close up. Here's the on board with Joken, and managed to stay away from that wall, but it's far out. That was a very wide moment there for Joken. Here's the on board with Ferbs, and slightly wide for Ferbs, nowhere near as dramatic, and has sliced a significant margin of, or a significant amount of that margin out of Joken there as we go through the chicane ourselves. Once is this going to be flying off the road for us? Nope, we keep it on. Big snap of oversteer on the exit though, as we took a bit too much of that curb, and we've got Bananotto coming through around the outside, and Bananotto gets through without too much of an issue. Hopefully we didn't give him any horrible flashbacks of what happened 1 week ago. But anyway, as we continue to watch on, Ferbs and Joken still quite close together on track, still rushing that first corner a bit, but Ferbs are closing in all the time to Joken, and with Ferbs. They're both on the medium compound at the moment, but Ferbs looking the more pacey of the two at the moment in the Camaro, looking very strong here. But yeah, we've just had a deep moment at turn 1, but won't be too long. Joken leaves it high and wide through the banking. Ferbs tries to get through, a bit of a contact between them. Ferbs getting a bit cheeky there, making a bit of contact with Joken, and doesn't end up making that move in the end, and slots in behind, and Ferbs are cut to the inside at the last moment, and into the chicane. Ferbs takes the position, and whoa, flying off the road for Ferbs there, nowhere near making it through the chicane to the second or second half of the chicane. So Ferbs picking up a penalty there as well, so that was all a bit sketchy between those two, as Joken might have a chance to close back in with Ferbs serving that penalty, but not close enough, and Ferbs going to hold on to the position. So yeah, interesting moment between these two, but eventually I think Ferbs has managed to hold on to that. A bit wide again there though, and just about keeps it on. Jochen thinks about getting back up the inside, but that's really a one-line section of circuit. Jochen backs out of it, and they run a line astern once more, as they've got now Bananotto coming through to make some overtakes on them, and the Banana Man moves up ahead of Jochen, and will soon be ahead of Ferbs too, I would imagine, with the pace that the Trans Am driver has been able to close in. And where's Ferbs? He's left it high and wide, and Bananotto gets through, and Jochen and Ferbs can continue their shenanigans behind as we continue on. So we've got Bananotto ahead of Ferbs, ahead of Jochen in this train. Jochen dropping off the back, Ferbs closing in again. Might actually make that move. No, backs out of it, or looks for again. So Ferbs just getting in the mirrors, but I don't think making a serious threat to actually make the pass back on Bananotto there. Just keeping him on his toes. But anyway, Sparrow deep into turn 1. I've said that a few times in this race. Uncle Pete joins in the party and runs a little wide there as well. So yeah, it's happened to probably 3/4 of the field by now at turn 1. As we continue to watch on, we've got Gren making the move on Uncle Pete. Pete doesn't make that too difficult for the Flying Finn, who is all the way up back into 4th place, where he started in this race. As we see Sparrow come into the pit lane next, and after starting on the softs, it's going to be more softs going on for Sparrow, so we're saving those harder compounds for later in the race. Uncle Pete's in the pit lane as well, and for Uncle Pete, going from the medium tyres to the hards at this first pit stop of the day. We'll come into the pits as well and get rid of these softs and get some of this damage fixed. We're going to go onto the hards and get this stint out of the way. So yeah, we'll do it early in the race so we don't have to worry about it. I was hoping that we might be able to get a bit racy at the start on softs, but we still ultimately didn't have any pace to work with. So yeah, that sort of shows the lack of pace I've had around this circuit. So yeah, we refuel and go again. I was only meant to do a short stint on the hard, so I wasn't refilling much, but it took me a solid 25 seconds to realize that I was putting heaps of fuel in the car. So that wasn't ideal. The car will be quite a bit heavier than what I was intending it to be for this stint, but let's be honest, that's not going to make a huge difference to the outcome of this race. As we see J-Dog now the first driver to see blue flags in this race, despite not running in last position. Those further back were in the pits as Titor went through in the race lead. So yeah, first time blue flags are deployed for J-Dog, but J-Dog's not really in any hurry to let Titor through here, staying on the racing line as they head back onto the banking. So J-Dog's fighting this one, and we saw J-Dog fight Titor a bit with the blue flags last time as well at Miyabi. So we've seen a theme here, but this time looks like J-Dog maybe pushing away through the banking, sparking up against the wall there. So maybe J-Dog's turned the fuel up there and is going to try and push away from Titor instead, rather than go a lap down. Pete back into the pit lane, and the soft tyres will go on for Uncle Pete. Pete can use softs for the rest of the race, as we've seen Ferbs into the wall at turn 1. We've seen drivers go deep, but Ferbs taking it to a whole new level there, and finding the barriers on the outside for Ferbs. That's an unfortunate one. Jochen goes through, and Ferbs drops in behind, so that'll be damage for Ferbs, unfortunately. And yeah, that's a real shame. Here's a replay. Just, I don't know what happened there. Just way too deep. Couldn't get it stopped. And that tyre barrier on the outside, it was ready and waiting, as Jochen was able to just fly on through. No issue there. So yeah, that was a weird one for Ferbs. And we now see Titor come into the pits. New set of tyres go on for a driver looking very solid for this year's championship at the moment. it's the mediums going on for Titor at that stop. Jester in the pits as well, going on to the hards, so getting those out the way early in this race. On board with myself after our 1 lap on hards. This will be a fairly short stop, having put in all that fuel earlier, and yeah, we've only got half a tank to put in now, so we'll bring it into the pits and the box, and we'll get a set of the soft compound tires on. We'll probably save the mediums for the final stint, just so I can make sure I make the medium stint as short as it can possibly be. That way I don't have to do any sort of fancy countback work from the end of the race to work out when I can make my final stop. I'll just run as long as possible and put the mediums on. So we do that as we also see Ferbs into the pits for softs, and J-Dog in also for softs. So yeah, everyone starting to move on to the grippier compounds in this race, as we've got Gren now catching up to Jester. So Gren absolutely flying in this race, and catching up to Jester, who qualified ahead. Jester, though, remember, has just put the hard compound tires on as Gren goes through on the inside. So Jester not going to fight that one too hard on that tire compound, of course. I assume Jester will probably be coming into the pits at the end of this lap, as we make our way out of pit lane, immediately getting blue flagged as we exit pits, but we'll serve those in due course. But we're on to the softs now, and it's time we just basically just push on to the end. It's a long way to go in this one, but yeah, the strategy is essentially out the way for us until the very final stint. We just need to extend each one of these stints as long as we can. Until then, we just need to stay out of trouble, as we've got Sparrow closing in, so we'll just keep it out of the way here. Let Sparrow go through, and we'll carry on as we head back out onto the banking. And yeah, we'll see what comes next for us in this race. Still more than an hour and a half to go in this one, so we have not yet reached the 1/4 mark in this race, as we see Gren coming into the pits, and it's going to be the medium tires going on for Gren. Jester in as well, onto the soft tires for Jester, and then we've also got Ferbs coming into the pits as well. We saw him in the pits just a moment ago, but Ferbs mostly coming in for fuel this time, I believe, going on to more soft tires. So yeah, interesting one there from Ferbs, as we see Sparrow making the move around the outside of Joken, who heads into the pits. So Joken now will make the switch in pit lane to move on to the hard compound tires, and yeah, get that stint out of the way for Joken. And no surprise, just 1 lap later, Joken back into the pits, and Joken moves on to the soft compound tires. So like most others, not using the hards for more than a lap. Bananotto, the main exception to that, as well as J-Dog. On board with myself, though, bit too much inside curb there, sends us off the road in the infield section. Come back on, and that's not the road at all. There's the track, but yeah, just an awkward one there. Thankfully, there was absolutely no one else around in this zone of the circuit, so we'll just keep that one between us, and no one will ever know. As we see Ferbs getting a lap back off John Titor, so Ferbs coming back into this race and absolutely flying at the moment, and has already put a significant gap to Titor. And if we sneakily turn on the HUD, we can see Ferbs set the fastest lap of the race so far, with a cracking time there. So yeah, that's a good effort from Ferbs. We'll see if that sticks for the rest of the race, as we see J-Dog heading into the chicane. Lets Ferbs go through the easy way there. I guess it would have been seeing Ferbs coming with a lot of pace after setting that fastest lap, and yeah, didn't put up a fight. That, or J-Dog was also getting blue flagged for Titor, So you may have just gotten them a bit mixed up, I'm not sure. But one of those things happened as we see through turn 1. It's very wide out into the grass completely for Joken there, and way off the road. So again, so many drivers struggling with turn 1 here. It is a genuinely very, very tricky corner, and we're seeing that play out over and over, even quite deep into this race. We see Bananotto come into the pit lane. That is for medium compound tyres for Bananotto, as Uncle Pete goes blazing past us. We set personal best. Uncle Pete absolutely flying in this race, and has very, very good pace at the moment. So this is a very, very strong race from Uncle Pete so far today, as we follow through. And we've gone a bit deep there, straight into the back of Uncle Pete. So just spoiling the day slightly there, but we carry on. Wouldn't cost too much time in the grand scheme of things. This is not going to be a race separated by, a few seconds come the end of things, as we see Ferbs heading into the chicane. Bit wide there, and loss of the rear end, and into the barriers goes Ferbs for the second time in this race. The Ferbs car finds the tyre wall, and that was a big crash for Ferbs, unfortunately. Gets going again, but yeah, that was a nasty one, and more damage for the crew to fix up there. As Ferbs comes back into the pits, and we'll get it all sorted out. Meanwhile, as we continue to see more pit stops play out, J-Dog back into the pit lane, and moves on to the medium compound tyres for the next stint, and Sparrow into the pits as well. Sparrow again going on to more soft compound tyres, so really pushing hard at the start of this one, and trying to generate some good lap speed in the early stages of this race. Ferbs again into the wall. Oh my goodness, the day just goes from bad to worse for Ferbs. Oh wow, that's what a disaster. That's 3 fairly major crashes so far for Ferbs in this race. Gets going again, but yeah, it's been a struggle, unfortunately, for Ferbs, and yeah, threw it into the wall in a big way that time. Straight in, nose first that time. Very little retardation of the speed in that short bit of grass before making contact with the barriers, and that's going to be significant damage to the Camaro there, unfortunately. For Ferbs, gets going again, but yeah, has now a lot of work to do to make up for 3 pretty significant moments in this race. As into the pits we see Uncle Pete come in, and Pete will move on to the soft compound tyres with that stop. We see Ferbs come into the pits, and just parks it, and might just be calling it a day for Ferbs there. Unfortunately, just has not been a good time. Into turn 1 we go once again, a little bit wide, as Sparrow sends it up the inside, and again, not fighting that one too hard, as Sparrow goes through and puts us another lap down in this race, or a lap down yet again, with Sparrow obviously making some pit stops as well. It's hard to keep up with where everyone truly is in this race, but we'll try to stay on top of it as much as possible, as it's once again a time for us to come into the pits in this race. And again, we'll move on to the soft compound tyres for this stint, and they'll carry us through the next stage of this race. But with Ferbs having those crashes and pulling into pits, that has elevated us to 9th position, so if we can manage to somehow get one more, that might be enough for us to at least equal our lowest points haul. I think we need P7 to improve, so we're still away from that, but anyway, as we go on board with Jochen. Titor comes out of pits right behind Jochen. Jochen leaves a high and wide on the exit. Titor will go through and get back past. But Titor, with that stop, was on to the hard compound tyres, and Jochen actually will be getting this place back from John Titor. Unfortunately, Titor was well out of frame there, but Jochen gets back through on John Titor after just giving that place up. So yeah, it can be a bit tricky in these situations. Jochen and Titor not in the party chat, so it's hard to know what tyres everyone moves on to at any given time and how fast they're going to be. But straight after that, Jochen comes into the pits anyway, as well as John Titor, and Jochen is in for the soft compound tyres, as is John Titor in that stop. And we also have Gran coming into the pits, also going on to the soft compound tyres with that stop. So as we continue to tick down the minutes here, still more than half of the race to go, with Bananotto going a bit deep into turn 1 there. We head back and see Sparrow with Grant in the background looming large, and we'll be putting the pressure on very soon with all the speed Grant has shown throughout this race, as Sparrow just takes it a little bit wide through the infield there, and is not going to make things too difficult for Gren, and Gren gets through easily there. So yeah, Sparrow not feeling particularly feisty today, and yeah, Gren will go through, take P4 back from Sparrow, as we see J-Dog and Bananotto running side by side. J-Dog sparking it up against the wall, and yeah, making some fireworks out the back of that car as Bananotto puts J-Dog a lap down so far in this race. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of pace difference in this race by the end of it, because it is such a long race with so many laps, as Jester comes in for a set of soft compound tyres. You know, it's really going to be a test of consistency, as oh, that was close to the inside wall. We've had a few moments, but that'll be the closest one yet to that inside wall, so we need to watch out for that one, as Ferbs comes back out of pit lane. So the crew finally finished repair work on that car. Took them a few minutes, but Ferbs re-emerges back out on track, but is now a couple of laps behind us, and just pulls off to the side to let some of the traffic clear. And yeah, we'll soon carry on in this race. So yeah, looks like Ferbs is back in it, and to be fair, with the pace Ferbs has had versus mine, Ferbs might actually be able to catch up to us again, as we see Jochen off the road entry to the second right-hander in the infield. Not sure exactly what the cause of that one was, just lost the rear on entry, and that's a big snap there, manages to catch it. Big moment for Jochen. And as we head back towards turn 1, which has been one of a number of hotspots for action in this race, Jochen goes deep there again, just running it out wide over the exit apron, but carries on. So yeah, just more and more mistakes at turn 1, as we see John Titor making the move down the inside of Bananotto. That's for the race lead. Probably more of a symbolic pass than for actual position, being on different strategies, but a pass nonetheless, and I'm sure Titor will be very happy to have made that one. And speaking of, Bananotto is actually the next one to come into the pits. It's going to be soft tyres going on for Bananotto, and yeah, we'll continue to push on with some nice grip in this race. Now that's a J-Dog off the road just ahead of us, and we won't make a position out of that, but we will get past J-Dog, and yeah, we remain in P9. J-Dog struggling at the moment in 8th position, so yeah, that's how we sort of stand at the moment as we see it on a replay. Just, yeah, awkward moment there. Rejoining side by side with Gren, and that did look awkward on the rejoin. Let's see this again from a different angle, and yeah, just run it out into the grass. No damage from that, kept it out of the barriers, but okay, the rejoin didn't look quite as awkward from that angle. So we see J-Dog now come into the pits, and yeah, maybe get a brand new set of tyres on that car after those ones just got covered in grass and dirt, and J-Dog moved on to yet another set of the soft compound tyres. Uncle Pete into the pits as well, not changing tyres, so Pete on I believe softs, so obviously confident in the tyre wear of that car. But anyway, as we carry on, we're getting blue flagged yet again for Sparrow, who's driven past us a few times in this race. We'll go high this time, Sparrow goes low, and we'll push on through. But I'm not sure if Sparrow's got it turned up, but that's a significant straight line speed difference. Sparrow pulls into the pits immediately after that, which is why we gave him the low line to make that a bit easier as we head into turn 1 once more. And of course we go slightly deep, not too bad that time, again getting nice and close to that inside wall, and we carry on with a penalty now for that little moment, unfortunately, as we see Sparrow come into the box. Sparrow moves on to the medium compound tyres, so Sparrow finally starting to think about using some of the other tyre requirements in this race. Here's how close we got to that inside wall, and yeah, it does not get much closer than that, so we're pushing our luck there at turn 1, but we get away with it on that occasion as we go back to Ferbs, who's flying along, and is that a bit deep into turn 1 yet again into the outside wall, and actually gets reset. He crashed that far along the barriers. You can actually there is a reset point out there before you eventually reach the other end of the infield, and yeah, that was a big crash for Ferbs there. So yeah, another one. That's I think the 4th crash for Ferbs in this race, and already several laps down. It's not been a good one, unfortunately, for a driver who won earlier this season back at Road Atlanta. We have a bit of a moment through the chicane. We joined the club there after having a pretty clean run through that section of the track so far. I've usually been alright through the chicane, but yeah, not on that occasion, as we see Ferbs park it in pit lane once more in this race. We'll have a little run through the current order. It's John Titor in the race lead. Gren runs in 2nd position. Another strong run from a driver who's only made 3 starts, including this one. And it's Jester in 3rd, ahead of Bananotto in P4. Sparrow runs in 5th position. Uncle Pete and Jokin P6 and P7. These two are the closest fight for position on track. And Uncle Pete under a bit of pressure from Jokin at the moment, who is pushing on hard in this one, trying to close down that margin. But Uncle Pete seems to have things under control at the moment. And further back, we've got J-Dog in P8. Probably more likely to see Jokin and Pete in his mirrors at this stage. Just not with the pace in this race, unfortunately, for J-Dog. And then we run down in 9th position in the Charger. And then, of course, we've still got Ferbs parked in pit lane in P10. Into turn 1 we go, though. And, oh, we've hit that inside wall. And we've been threatening to do that for a while. Here comes Jester straight into the side of us. And that was not good timing. That was very, very unfortunate that Jester just happened to be coming just moments after we hit that inside wall. We were stuck there, is what it looked like from my perspective. And yeah, this was a painful one. Throw it into the first corner. And yeah, I almost knew it when I turned in that I was going to be tight with the tyres, and then I kind of got stuck on that on the tyres that protrude out from the barrier quite a significant distance. Jester comes flying through and was trusting in the ghosting system, and with perhaps the cruelest of timings, we unghost right as he made contact. It was not even half an eye blink between when our car unghosted and when the contact was made. It was quite ridiculous. So yeah, that was a real shame for Jester. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that one. Throws it in. You can see there was absolutely no time to react between when my car unghosted and when Jester finally made contact with the side of us, as we were still stuck there. If I... in my head, I was thinking, I didn't want to move so that, whoever was coming, I saw the blue flag, I knew there was a car coming, so I thought they could just drive around, then once the blue flag's cleared, I'll get going again. But of course, that's not quite how it happened, so I was trying to turn the car around in the smallest space possible, assuming that anyone coming would go around. Ghosting wasn't really on my mind, but yeah, that's front bar damage for Jester, surprisingly the only damage for Jester. So with the Trans Am not having front downforce, I brought this up last time, I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but the damage either way, not too severe, only to one component. For us, we've got front and rear bar, we've got both left side suspension, so we've got it all going on in our car, unfortunately, as we see this battle between Joken and Pete starting to heat up. Joken closing in, Pete picking up a penalty there, so Pete might be in a bit of trouble here as Joken closes in and might be just about to take P6 away, as Pete will have to serve that penalty. Joken goes through and Uncle Pete drops into P7. Joken up to P6 and will be loving life now with some clean air, but not for long, because Joken comes in on the very next lap and will fit yet another set of the soft compound tyres in this race. So yeah, Joken enjoying clean air for just a lap as J-Dog goes spinning off the road on the infield there. Kind of a similar place to where we ended up, but J-Dog adding a few 360s to the mix to what we did back in the earlier stages of this race. J-Dog gets going again though, and we'll carry on, but yeah, just having a bit of an expression session down there at the far end of the infield as the drifts continue back out onto the banking. J-Dog smoking it up, and yeah, just putting on a show for the crowd here. A little smoke coming out the back of that car as we see a Jester come into the pits next. Jester moving on to the soft compound tyres yet again, refueling for the next stint. Back to Bananotto into turn 1. It's another deep moment for Bananotto, and we'll carry on. You can occasionally pick up a penalty for going deep there. Seems to be hit and miss. I've got a handful of them as we actually run out of fuel on the run towards pit lane this time. We've picked up a penalty as well for our troubles earlier on in this lap, but yeah, not a big deal. We are far away from fighting anyone in this race with Ferbs actually out on track at the moment, but many laps behind, and J-Dog well in front of us. So we're just cruising to the end from here, not really anything for us to fight for. We just need to be on track at the end in case any others happen to drop out. But J-Dog into the pits. We're both on to the softs for the next stint, and we've also got Sparrow coming into the pit lane, and Sparrow will be moving on to the hard compound tyres, so finally going to get those ones out of the way quite late on in this race, as we've also got John Titor coming into the lane. It's going to be the soft compound tyres for John Titor, and Uncle Pete also brings it into the pit lane. So we've had a good half the field, maybe more, just cycle through the pit lane. And yeah, all onto the soft compound tyres, bar Sparrow, who moved, of course, onto the hards. But anyway, we get our damage fixed. 6 seconds of aero, 4 seconds of suspension. But luckily they can do both at the same time, so not a huge deal. And we get going again, and all of a sudden the car handles completely differently with all of that damage fixed. And yeah, second lot of pretty serious damage we've had in this race. So it's not been a clean one for me, unfortunately. Just yeah, 2 mistakes, both at turn 1, showing how difficult that corner can be. Anyway, into the pits, we've got Gren now coming through, and Gren moves on to another set of the soft compound tyres. Also, of course, Sparrow spending 1 lap on those hards. Will move back onto the softs for the next stint of the race, as we look to J-Dog, who is in the infield section once more, and going deep into the second of the big right-hand U-turns, and just parks it up on the outside. Some cars are coming through, so maybe J-Dog just getting rid of all those blue flags at once, and may carry on after the queue goes through. That's 5 cars, I think, that have gone past so far, including myself in that lot. But of course, J-Dog well ahead of us, so that is not a 4 position. J-Dog still holding down P8 in this race, as the mission carries on, and J-Dog pulling off again. So maybe J-Dog is going to call it quits in this one as well. Of course, the time zone difference over in America does make things pretty difficult. But J-Dog gets going again, crashes straight into the barrier there. Not sure what that was about, and J-Dog pulls off on the inside. So yeah, that was a weird one. Here's the onboard, and actually in the few meters between taking off and hitting that barrier, got fast enough to actually damage the car there. Anyway, Bananotto into the pits yet again, and more soft tyres going on for Bananotto. Unfortunately, not looking too good in the championship fight so far. Has only been moderately competitive in this race, but we'll see how it all pans out at the end, as we look back to J-Dog once more, heading through the infield section off the road there for J-Dog, and yeah, drifting it through off the road again. So unfortunately, J-Dog just having an expression session now in the infield, and no hopes of climbing further up the field, unfortunately. So that might be day done for J-Dog, pulling it off the road there again at the exit back onto the bank section. And yeah, J-Dog just going to spectate from there on board with Ferbs, who's out of fuel, doing more or less what we did into pit lane, and pulls it in again, and a fresh set of tyres gone for Ferbs, and a whole load of fuel to top up that tank. And back on board with myself as we continue to push on. We're fair way through the race now, past the 2/3 mark, and heading towards the last half hour, and we see J-Dog off the road there. We'll make that move, and that will put us up finally ahead of J-Dog. He's been parked there for a while, and we move ourselves up into 8th position. So I think that will tie our worst current result of the 6 that count. So if we get some magic, we might be able to get one more. There's the onboard with J-Dog as we went through. So that's the view that J-Dog's getting of this race at the moment, as we see battle playing out here. We've got Sparrow and Pete quite close together. So Sparrow after doing that hard tyre stint, has dropped a little bit further back in this race. Of course, we did see Sparrow running in about 5th place earlier. Now currently holds down a P6, with Pete taking 5th position and holding it very nicely as we go on board with J-Dog, who retires from the race. We go through again just as J-Dog was quitting from the race there. So unfortunately, J-Dog not making it to the end of this one, and depending on how many laps Ferbs completes, will potentially be in last position. But anyway, we'll see how that all looks at the end of the race. But on board with John Titor, setting the fastest lap of the race there, taking it away from Ferbs. So statement of trying to get maximum points here for John Titor, and already through this first sector is improving even on his own PB. So John Titor absolutely flying at the moment, and unfortunately with John Titor's laggy connection, can't quite see the quality of this lap, but I'm sure it looks very good when you take the lag away. But I'm going to show this because Grenster did recommend showing the fastest lap. So this is one that will surely topple the previous time, as Titor's improving massively on the previous on his previous PB, which already stands as the fastest lap of the race. Let's see what Titor can do through the chicane, and taking a lot of curb there at the first one and the final apex. A little bit less, it would seem, through the middle two apexes of the chicane, but again, it's hard to tell exactly where the car is given the lag. It always appears a little bit out wider than where it truly is. But anyway, as we run on board towards the line, it is going to be a whopping 1 minute 45.9, just 2/10 off of the pole time. That is a ridiculous lap time in a race for John Titor. Absolutely smashed the fastest lap there. It's going to be hard for anyone else to beat that. John Titor is very, very strong here, and yeah, we go on board now with Ferbs as Jochen comes out of pit lane right behind, and Ferbs drifts it right in front. So we saw what happened last time these two were together on track. This time Ferbs doesn't make things too difficult, and Jochen goes through, but Ferbs closes that margin very quickly, it's got to be said, and makes the move down the inside of Jochen. Obviously Ferbs burning some higher fuel maps to make that move, but anyway, Jochen coming back, and now they're bumping along the straight, and eventually Ferbs will get, oh, that's still going on. Jochen slots in behind, and Ferbs will come out in front, but that all got a bit silly with Ferbs there. I'm not sure what is playing at with that one, but anyway, a bit deep as well for Ferbs, but will maintain the position ahead of Jochen as Titor's closing in, so these two will have to settle things down soon. But yeah, that's not the first time we've seen these two running into each other so far in this race. And yeah, Ferbs goes through eventually on Jochen after a little bumping duel in a straight line. Meanwhile, back to Sparrow, still putting the pressure on Uncle Pete. Uncle Pete a little further up the road with the penalty to serve though, so that'll cost some time along the run towards turn 1. Don't think it'll be enough for Sparrow to catch up, so looks like Pete has the pace to hold Sparrow off at the moment, and just needs to avoid getting too many of those penalties. So that did definitely help Sparrow close that margin, but looks like Uncle Pete just has slightly better pace, and it might be enough to hold off Sparrow. As we go back on board with myself, very close to the inside wall there yet again, but we get away with it on this occasion. So we're playing with fire there, and we only got burnt once. That's not too bad. Anyway, as we continue on, the blue flags continue for us. Got the Bananotto catching up to us now. We're going to just keep it low on the banks here. Bananotto can go around the outside, and yeah, we'll duck into the slipstream for a short time as we head on to the straight. We're not in any rush to get there, to be honest, but yeah, you can just see we don't have the straight line speed. Again, not sure if Bananotto turned the fuel up as we go very deep into turn 1. Not sure if he turned the fuel up to make that move, but yeah, still, it feels very slow in a straight line whenever someone goes past. But anyway, as we see Jester come into the pits, this will be the final round of pit stops where we'll see start to play out now. Jester moves on to the soft compound tyres, as will most people, as we see this final round of stops play out. Bananotto will also be taking soft tyres to the end of the race. Same can be said for John Titor, who's also into the pits for the final time. Actually, a lap ahead just about of the others who are coming in at the same time. And into the pits also comes Uncle Pete. Will be finishing the race on the soft tyres, as will Sparrow. Those two quite close, because Sparrow actually has a little bit less fuel to put in than Uncle Pete. And as you can see, actually, as the fuel fills up on the left side of screen there, they're very close in terms of their when they're going to reach 100. They're only going to be fractions of a second apart. So we'll watch how the end of this pit stop cycle plays out for these two on board with Sparrow. And Sparrow has jumped Uncle Pete, but only by half a car length. Pete straight back down the inside into the right-hander, and Pete gets back through straight away. And that position was very briefly held by Sparrow. It's not over yet, though, as they run side by side. Sparrow backs out of it and concedes that position. But they're both on softs and going to the end, so it's a straight fight between these two. Same age tyres to the end. They've both got a full tank of fuel, so it'll be flat out between those two. Back to myself, and we'll get a set of medium tyres on to finish this one off. Like I said, running every soft tyre stint as long as we can to shorten this stint, and we'll short fuel it because this won't be a full stint to the end. Hopefully we've timed that about right with the fuel we need to get to the end. It's always a little bit of guesswork, but yeah, we've got a fairly round number to work with in terms of lap times, around the 2-minute mark when I'm in map 6, just under, so it's not terribly hard to try and work out the fuel to the end. As we see Gren in the pits, and Gren actually taking the medium tyres. I believe we've already seen Gren on the mediums, but yeah, I'm fairly certain we just saw Gren switch to the mediums in that stop, so interesting strategy there. As we see side by side, we've got Sparrow making the move on Uncle Pete once more. So this fight is well and truly on. Sparrow up on the high line trying to make it work and taking the long way around, not able to make that move. Now back into the slipstream. This could be a good run for Sparrow towards turn 1, and they're going to go side by side again as Sparrow's ducking in and out of the slipstream, trying to construct the move. Uncle Pete was holding hard on that inside line, and Sparrow can't quite find the way around the outside. Maybe a switchback through turn 1, not to be, and Uncle Pete holds on, but Sparrow is piling on the pressure now, as we see Ferbs just parked off the side of the road there, and not making it too difficult for the field to go through with the blue flags there. And yeah, that of course isn't for position for us. We still maintain P8 in this race. Ferbs well behind us at the moment, and yeah, has continued to not have such a great time in this one, pulling off the road there. But anyway, as we continue to push on, we'll go a bit deep into the chicane. We'll just send it off here because we've got John Titor beeping the horn at us from behind. I did see him closing. I was going to let him go after the chicane, but yeah, without a little mistake on entry, I decided to just get out of the way as soon as possible, and yeah, we'll continue on our way with Titor now well in front of us. Back into the pits comes Ferbs, and Ferbs is parked it once again, and will remain in pit lane for a little while. Anyway, back to Uncle Pete, very wide as they head back onto the banking. Sparrow up the inside, and might have a chance to get a position here. Not the traction on the exit, and Uncle Pete holds on. So again, Uncle Pete under pressure. Another mistake there, but not enough for Sparrow to get back through. And Sparrow always there, always looming, but just hasn't quite been able to make that overtake on Uncle Pete. But these two have been so close to each other throughout this whole battle, and now Uncle Pete has a penalty, so that might make things interesting. But we go back on board with myself as these two are racing on through, and this is actually a different lap to what that battle we just saw was, and yeah, Uncle Pete has managed to pull away once more, so yeah, that obviously didn't amount to anything. But anyway, Sparrow goes down the inside, we graze the wall and go very deep into turn 1, Sparrow deep as well, so almost at the end of this race now, and we still haven't quite worked out how to slow down for the first corner. It's just been an ongoing issue for good 6 or 7 of us, I'd say, in this race. Just trying to find that right point to hit the brakes and turn in to the first corner. But yeah, the only ones really who haven't struggled with it would be Titor, Gren, and Jester, and look who's on the podium. So yeah, it does make a difference when you can string a lap together again and again, as we go on board with Joken, who's set a series of slower lap times here, and just hasn't really been on the pace as of late. So Joken just I don't know, falling asleep towards the end of this one, not really fighting anyone for position, and yeah, just cruising to the end as we see Uncle Pete now well ahead of Sparrow. So Sparrow might be in fuel conservation mode to the end of this one, might have yeah, just burnt all the extra fuel at the start of that stint, as we see Joken spin it around across the start line there, and send a nice smoke signal to the crowd. But yeah, Joken doing a bit of J-Dog inspired drifting and expression session stuff towards the end of this one, and is in no threat from behind. Joken, I think, is more than 2 laps in front of me, so that's the kind of gaps we're talking about at the back of this field. With myself, with the lack of pace we've had, and yeah, Ferbs even further behind, having parked in the pit lane for quite a while in this race. But yeah, Joken continuing to drift around, and yeah, just put on a show at the end of this one. Full 360 and a bit more there, as the drifts and burnouts continue for Joken. And yeah, we're just watching on. Not much action really position wise, with Uncle Pete getting away from Sparrow. I think the positions are pretty much set in this race, and to be honest, they haven't really changed from the halfway mark. Oh, we've got Sparrow into the pits. Interesting choice here. So Sparrow's abandoned that fight with Uncle Pete, and with a fresh set of soft tyres, will go for the fastest lap late in this race. So might be trying to steal one more sneaky point away. Sparrow and Ferbs are very close in the championship, so that could make the difference. I'm not too sure exactly what the difference is in terms of... Whoa, that's a bit of a deep moment there for us, into the side of Joken, who's just parked on the outside there. Bit of target fixation there. But yeah, like I was saying with Sparrow and Ferbs, There was 2 points between them. Ferb's 2 points in front, but with Sparrow having a pretty good race here, that could switch around. We'll see at the end. But yeah, with blue flags flying in all directions here, with that Bananotto go through, and we're able to get past Jokin, who pulled out the way, but is still almost 2 laps in front of us. So yeah, not much going to change there as we go on board with Jokin, who retires from the race. So in the dying seconds, Jokin brings his race to an end as we see Sparrow cross the line, and the time has already hit 0, and Sparrow won't have a chance to go for the fastest lap. He was just 9 seconds too late, and yeah, unfortunately for Sparrow, there'll be no bonus point today. We've got Jester coming to the line, and Jester will cross the line to take P3, the next to greet the checkered flag, I should say. We've got Bananotto. It's been a super strong championship fight, but unless something dramatic happens to John Titor on the final lap, it's not going to be a championship win for Bananotto. It's P4, his worst result of the season. First time he's been off the podium. What a shame after such a strong season. To the line now we come to take P7. A decent result, all thanks to a few DNFs in this one, but I'll take it nonetheless. Persevering to the end. But here is the champion, John Titor. He won in Season 1, missed out in Season 2, as Ash took the title in that one. Season 3, Titor took it back. And Season 4, it was a much closer fight than ever before. But it's John Titor who takes yet another Trans Am title. 3 from 4 for John Titor. Amazing stuff. Across the line we've also got Uncle Pete taking 5th. A fantastic race. Might be a personal best result for Uncle Pete. And Gren makes it 3 podiums from 3 races with 2nd place here. Amazing work from Gren. Great consistency across the 3 races. And a very high points scoring ratio. And so we bring it across the line. There it is. The end of the final race of Season 4. Trans Am XL comes to an end. And it's John Titor who steals the championship in the final round. Oh my goodness. Bananotto led from round 2. Artsy, I guess, led from round 1. At Route X, but Bananotto took the championship lead. Daytona with the win there, and never looked back until now. What a championship fight this has been. What a comeback it's been for John Titor, who's had some lackluster results, and you know, if it wasn't for the scoring system we have, where you can drop those results, it would be a very different championship picture, and it would have been outright domination if we just look at the total points, which we will do, of course. We'll see all the stats in a few moments' time, but amazing round for John Titor. Pole position, smashed pole position by over almost a second, led the entire race, and well, all bar a handful of laps if we want to be technical about it. As you can see, Gran and Uncle Pete didn't actually cross the line. Had to actually get those clips from a lap earlier, but yeah, just about lapped the field for John Titor. So crazy stuff. But with all of that said, it is time we take a look at the championship standings. Alrighty, here are the championship standings, and I'm going to try my best to ramble as quickly as possible, because I could ramble forever. But anyway, 190 points for John Titor, 185 for Bananotto, so just 5 points between them. And when you look at the points that Bananotto had to drop, 26, 28, 28, and 30 all the way back at Route X. So, you know, that is some huge points dropped in this point system. So, yeah, we sometimes joke that different drivers in Trans Am are different F1 drivers. I think Bananotto can be Alan Prost now, losing the championship despite scoring more points. Similar to Senna and Prost back in the day. So there's one. But anyway, we look further down the order. Jester kind of in no man's land in P3. Sparrow does get the better of Ferbs by just 2 points in the end, so the final round making the difference there. We maintain our P6. Joken actually got very close, and if it wasn't for Joken retiring, we would have been tight on points. We would have also been still ahead of Joken, courtesy of the second place at Daytona on countback. J-Dog down 128 points. Definitely could have scored more this season, but too many DNFs and a no-show at High Speed Ring for J-Dog. And then further down, Artsy. We're getting into the drivers now who did not complete enough races to get a full points haul. Artsy just doing 4 races, 107 points. Then the next group are all very close. Pete just holds off Gren, who had 3 fantastic results at the end of the season. And for Pete as well, I think that might be a personal best result for Pete. I'm not 100% sure, but if not, it would be certainly close. And then Heafy with 89 points, so just 3 points across those 3 positions, or 4 points if you want to look at it that way. 75 points for Ash, pretty good considering Ash was had a big spin and crash in round 1, a disconnect in round 2, and then a full 35 points at High Speed Ring, and that was it for the season. So an interesting season for Ash, and still unfortunately not in the championship fight. Not with enough races to get involved. And then Lounsey and Auto not competing in many races, or just 2 and 1 for them. Auto in the Northern Isle Speedway round, making it the most highly attended race, not only of the season but ever in Trans Am. A closer look at my own season, a look back, I suppose. Route X was an absolute disaster. Let's not talk about that. Next was Daytona. Best result of the season. Second best result I've ever had. Second podium. I can't really complain. I look back and think I could have won, but anyway, wasn't to be. Next 2 rounds, Watkins Glen was a lot of fun. Got racy there. Streets of Willow was always going to be tough, but thanks to a low turnout, we managed to steal 22 points there. Northern Isle Speedway was absolutely crazy. Chasing down Titor at the end was honestly one of the most satisfying moments of the season, getting that move done. That was awesome. And then Road Atlanta, felt really strong there. Felt like I had decent pace, but just due to the massive turnout we had for that doubleheader, it just was never going to result in a lot of points. And then next we head to High Speed Ring. If that race was dry, I think we could have done something a bit better, but the Superbird just had no pace in the rain. It was so hard to drive, even on the straights. I just felt like I had nothing to work with there. And then Blue Moon, absolutely redemption for the Superbird after the disaster of High Speed Ring. P5, second best result of the season, and one of my best in Trans Am, full stop, in the Superbird. I could not be happier with that result, and that is easily one of the most satisfying races. It come unstuck at the end, but we got it all sorted before the finish line, and got back into our proper positions, so it was all good. And then the last 2 rounds, bit of a disaster, caused a few incidents there, but we move on. But that is how the championship played out for myself and for everyone else. We've been through the order, so let's see what the total points look like. So here are the total points and other stats for the season. Total points, Bananotto almost 30 points a race, 297 from 10 races. Only 1 victory, but 9 podiums, as well as a pole and a fastest lap. Those coming at Kyoto Driving Park. John Titor, 3 poles, as opposed to Bananotto's 1. Still only one fastest lap though, but only 5 podiums, but 4 of those were race victories, and that's where the difference was made. For John Titor, Jester, no wins this season, but 5 podiums, 2 poles and 2 fastest laps, so plenty of speed, but just not able to put it all together. And curiously, 3 fastest laps for Ferbs. Of course, no pole positions for the driver who never qualifies, but still behind Sparrow, having not competed in every race for Ferbs, and we're actually not too far behind Ferbs in the total points, just 8 points between us, and a much bigger gap back to J-Dog and Jokin. Jokin now behind J-Dog, missing 4 rounds for a Jokin, and a rest. Not really changing order at all, I don't think. So we will next take a look at a slightly different point system. And I know I might be going a little bit over the top with my analysis of this, but I thought it might be interesting just to see with a sort of exclusion system where the drivers who do not compete in enough races to have a full 6 rounds count for points. I thought it might be interesting to see if you remove all those drivers from the results, what you're left with. And this is it. Bananotto still wins the championship in this scenario by just 2 points over Titor. But Bananotto gaining 10 points out of this different point system. Titor only gaining 3, so it does make a difference. If you start, drivers say like Ash and Gren, especially, who were on the podium and winning races, but didn't have enough results to complete a full season essentially. It is interesting to see, but it doesn't make a huge difference to the rest of us. Jokin moves ahead of myself with this system, albeit by just 1 point. J-Dog is much closer as well, just 7 points behind me. And say in this one, for example, we would get the fastest lap at Daytona. Artsy stole that one late in the race, but Artsy, having not completed 6 races, will lose that. So that's sort of the way I've worked it. I do not suggest at all that we use this point system because it is very complicated, but it is interesting to see how much difference all those additional drivers make to what the overall points would look like. But anyway, if you were to implement that point system, you would probably do it this way without dropping any scores, just to reduce the complexity of it. And just out of curiosity, I did that too, and it looked a lot like this. Jester moving up to second in this scenario, with Titor not being able to drop the high speed ring result. So it certainly does change things once you start including every single race. And myself ahead of Ferbs is another big one. Jokin a long way back, having missed 4 rounds. So you can really see the difference it makes having to compete in every round if you don't drop any. On to the stats from all seasons combined. We have John Titor scoring a whopping 654 points with 11 wins from 22 races, so a 50% win rate, which is just incredible. 15 podiums, which means only 4 podiums that are not wins as well. And a further 9 pole positions, only 4 fastest laps, funnily enough, but a 3-time champion, of course, at the end of this season. Jester, only 12 points less on 642, and then Bananotto also with 615 points. No one in the 500 range. Ferbs and myself next, just 1 point apart, 474 and 473 points. Ferbs, of course, having done much, or having competed in 5 less races. But funnily enough, I didn't actually realize this. Ferbs missing the previous round at Kyoto Driving Park Miyabi was actually the first round Ferbs has missed since joining Trans Am at the end of Season 1 in the final round there. So that is some consistent showing there from Ferbs. But anyway, as we continue to look through the stats, a few drivers getting first wins this season, including Artsy and Sparrow, and a few getting second wins as well, like Ferbs and Bananotto, winning for the second time. I've also added personal best results for those who have not won races and qualified on pole position before. So Jochen, let's be honest, he's never really qualified. The only time in Trans Am history I found that he actually set a time in qualifying was for 10th place. I think it was about 7 seconds off the pace, but has a best finish of second. Heafy's both qualified and finished in second place, but never managed the top spot. So surely a victory is not too far away for those two. And to the vehicle stats, and I could honestly ramble for 5 minutes about all this, but I'll try to make it somewhat quick. The Camaro is still the most successful car with 5 victories from 39 entries, a lot less. There's 15 less entries than the Boss, but the Boss only with 3 wins. The Trans Am taking 3 wins all this season at Route X, Daytona, and Blue Moon, so all quite high-speed circuits. Blue Moon the only one that actually requires any braking, but the Trans Am very much having its moment to shine this season and finding a lot of success, and already basically matching the Boss. Doesn't have the same number of podiums, but the same number of wins from a lot less entries, only 14 entries for the Firebird. The Pantera still sits as the 4th best car. Of course, we haven't seen any European cars since Season 1. And then I added the BOP version of the Chevy Nova as a separate entry to the regular one, just to complete the numbers without skewing the statistics. So you can pretty much just ignore that row. And then the C2 Corvette probably can be considered an underrated car now. 2 race wins from just 8 entries, and that shares the same statistics as the Ferrari, actually marginally ahead, based on having 2 fastest laps. None for the Ferrari is the only difference between those two. And interestingly, the Challenger has never seen a pole position. Bananotto and Titor have both qualified second, and you'll notice on this sheet as well, I have added the best records for each car in qualifying and the race, and which driver managed to get it. But yeah, I was hoping maybe that could encourage people to maybe use some of these less fancied cars and better some of these results. For example, if you look a bit further down the order, you've got the Corvette Convertible, has had a best finish of 5th and a best qualifying of 7th, both of those Heafy in round 2 of Season 1. So that shows how little that car has been used. The only time it's been seen since is Ash used it at Daytona this season, but got disconnected halfway through that race, so we never really saw what it was capable of there. So that's a very good example of a car that could definitely do a lot better, I think. But back up to some of the cars higher up, the Judge is probably the most likely car left to perhaps see a podium one day. John Titor qualifying in 3rd position and finishing 4th at Road Atlanta this season. In the Superbird, myself getting P5 at Blue Moon Bay is more than I could have ever expected, even in that race. So I'm really happy to have that record, the best finish in the Superboat. John Titor, the only other driver to use it. To be fair, Titor finished P6 at Monza, but qualified 4th. So unfortunately, we don't have the qualifying record in the Superboat. The P5 at high speed ring, not quite enough. But yeah, that's just about covers all the ones I wanted to go over. The Mach 1 hasn't been seen in forever, not since Daytona Season 2, and with things going awry for Jester and Sparrow there towards the end, Titor still holds the best finish in that car with P6 at Laguna Seca Season 1. And then the Chevy Nova, the regular non-BOP version. I've got the record in that car, but only because it was a low turnout race. That's Willow Springs. Yeah, I'd love to see a bit more action from that car in the future as well, to see what some others can do in it. But yeah, further down, of course, we have a lot of the cars that were only used for 1 or 2 races in Season 1, the Di Tommaso Mangustas and the Aston Martin Joker used, my Skyline, and so on. So yeah, a lot of those don't really have any such reliable statistics. But anyway, that is just about all that I think there is to cover for this one. So that brings Trans Am XL to an end. It has been a mega season, 10 races long, a lot of very long races in this season as well. But it's been a lot of fun. And do I say it's my most successful season? No, I don't think so. It can't topple Season 2 with the race win there. But I'm very happy with a few of the races I had this season. P2 at Daytona was cool. Northern Isle Speedway was just chaotic and absolutely awesome. And then the standout, I think, actually has to be Blue Moon Bay to get a top 5 in the Superbird. Has to be the highlight, I think, because I'm really happy with how that race panned out. So yeah, it's been a very fun season, and I'm looking forward to whatever we have coming next. But that's all for this one, so I'll say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one, and goodbye.